Is there a shortage of lost media? Absolutely not. Plenty of things are lost to time. In 2013, the Library of Congress estimated that over 70% of American silent films are lost. A reported 87% of video game history is entirely commercially unavailable by any means omitting outright piracy. Statistics like this dominate the preservation of media, and for a curator like myself, these numbers can be a little scary. I'm Jallo Mothmane, and I've adored lost media content for years now, and I've always wanted to take it out for a spin myself. But I've been waiting for just the right topic, something that really speaks to me, to come along, and I think I've found that in the 2000 Lost film simply entitled Mothman. Mothman was created by Douglas Ten Naple, the same mind behind Earthworm Jim and Nickelodeon's Cat Scratch. Mothman was Doug's first and seemingly only excursion into live action. It's an enigmatic film that, from what you can gather online, fought a tough 3-year battle with its production. The movie would ultimately never be released, and all that's available online is a teaser trailer, which was shown at 1999's San Diego Comic-Con. That right there is the incredibly abbreviated version of what really happened behind the scenes back at the turn of the century. In searching, I found much more about this movie than I was honestly expecting, and as for the future of this mystery, it may not be as bleak as it seems. Huh? What is that? What's that? I have the movie right here, why don't I just play it? First of all, distribution is a crime, buddy. Find the guy that sold this to me, he goes by Ryan Gosling. Also, I can't open it, that would spoil the lost media hunt. Although this is one of those cases where there's really not much to look for. If you're anything like me, one of the first things you think of when approaching any lost media case is, why is it lost? And does it even need to come back? As a creative myself, if something truly never comes to fruition, part of me consoles myself in the belief that maybe it was just never meant to be. We'll never know as an audience how the 90s Spider-Man movie starring Michael Jackson would have been. But don't worry, not all projects are that strange in retrospect. A quirky Mothman film might have been exactly what the early 2000s needed, but it just as likely could have been a huge flop. We need to extend our search to understand what the actual quality or substance of the film would have been. Usually a good route to take to do this would be to reach out to those who produced it, the higher up the better. But as it turns out, it's kind of hard to say how Mr. Ten Naple feels about his work, since he's really shied away from talking about its production, almost famously so. And with closed Twitter DMs and a full email inbox, I really wasn't able to reach him to ask for myself. So I'm gonna have to do what any good media miner would do, and start digging. Something I found right away that I wasn't planning on was a full description of the movie, multiple of them in fact from different sources. One of them being a website dedicated solely to the movie, only accessible through the Wayback Machine. Details around this are sparse and I'm filling in a few gaps, so take this with a grain of salt. This is just vaguely what the movie's plot was, but here is my abridged summary of Mothman. Our story takes place in the mythic yet simple town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the home of the original sightings of Mothman back in 1967. Now, nearing the 2000s, our story follows Ellis Cladson, an aspiring animator. If his job wasn't soul-crushing enough with his work getting rejected from Disney over and over again, he's also been tasked with spending most of his time looking after an abandoned apartment building which he's inherited from his father. And it's presumably in this old complex he starts to encounter the actual Mothman. When he tries to confide in the city about what he's seen, he's immediately made the town outcast. Nobody has seen that thing in 30 years. He wants help in trying to prove the beast exists, and can only find it in another varied town kook, aptly named Old Man Hudson. This is really starting to sound like a Goosebumps episode. And to really double down on that idea, there's a series of men in black that start stalking Ellis on their own more nefarious search for the cryptid. Very 90s. That's the basic plot summary, but the movie's plot isn't really that informative in terms of the actual viewing experience. There are a lot of movies with awesome sounding plots and terrible execution, and vice versa. All that I was able to forage up about the actual styling of the movie is that it was a quote-unquote quirky sci-fi drama comedy with a touch of horror. That's almost so descriptive that it somehow wraps all the way around, and now I have even less of an idea of what it would actually have played like. A big curveball I got thrown in researching this was the idea that the movie would include natural, non-professional performers giving true on-screen testimonials. So, wait, huh? The movie would include, like, documentary-type footage of people who really believe they've seen the Mothman? I couldn't find anywhere online even what age range the movie was for. Was this like a Nickelodeon kid-friendly Hocus Pocus type silly jaunt through Point Pleasant? Or was it Donnie Darko before Donnie Darko? Probably not that second one, as from my current view of the project, its vision was never all too clear. And it only got blurrier and blurrier as the cinematographer bailed halfway through after getting an offer to go work on Saving Private Ryan. The camera work, or what little of it was taken, was said to be uniquely bizarre. Purposeful imperfections, soft focus shots, odd and uncomfortable compositions. Cinematographer Jay Holben was once quoted saying,
"When Doug was asking for shaky cam or an out of focus take, everything in my body was screaming no. To deliberately flub a shot goes completely against everything I've ever done, and I became paranoid that no one would understand the motif of the film. I had these visions of an audience pointing at me. You screwed that up. It's very trying on one's ego to deliberately do bad work, but Doug pushed me into a realm that I had never gone before. He forced me to simplify even more than I would have normally and find the narrative truth in his vision.
Therefore, the Dean is a genius, and I will die protecting his vision."
The movie surprisingly would have been a DreamWorks production. Ted Napel pitched the idea straight to them, as he was already working on games for DreamWorks Interactive, like The Neverhood and Skull Monkeys at the time. But not all DreamWorks movies are created equal, I suppose, and they really didn't want to grant the project much money, at all. From the sounds of it, most of the movie, if not all of it, was privately funded through donations from companies like Panavision, Deluxe, Kodak, Universal Studios, and supposedly many more. And all of the people who worked on it were just friends in the industry, being asked to help as a favor. Following more than one delay, the budget, which was already cut from $650,000 down to $150,000, was further slashed all the way down to a measly $60K. This decision culled the crew down to just 10% of what it once was, and only left the remaining people with 15 days of shooting to work with. That time was spent frantically filming in Orange County before hurriedly moving all the way across the country to West Virginia, where the cast and crew struggled to overcome the freezing December temperatures and loud shooting from local hunters in every area of the woods they could have used to film. Here's a quick musing about it from the same Jay Holben.
"The worst nights by far for the crew were the nighttime exteriors in the West Virginia forest. It was freezing, we were deluged by a constant freezing rain and scattered echoes of hunters stalking deer in the not far enough distance. At one point, as our best boy electrician Adrian Brown was refocusing the 12K on top of a set of parallels, a man emerged from the trees with an AK-47 assault rifle in his hands. Luckily, he liked us."
After a long and arduous 15 days, they came all the way back to California to begin work on the seemingly equally turbulent post-production. Everyone working on the movie's edit was basically just doing it in their free time, once again, still being paid by the now sparse donations. Production started slowing further and further, and when a tragic and sudden death came upon the film's music editor, Gene Andrusko, quote, "prospects of the film's completion soon went quiet." Years went by with no word on what came of Mothman, but in a 2010 interview, now 13 years after the film's start, Douglas Ted Napel would emerge from out of the woodwork, not unlike a cryptid himself. Long story, but it's just a hard film to finish. We're close to a DVD edit that would be about 20 minutes long. That would be the end of it. And even then, it's the movie that just doesn't want to be finished. It would never end up being picked up by a distributor. Doug did tease that it could make an appearance at some sort of film festival, but now, nearing the end of 2023, it looks like Mothman may remain in the dark. And as I hinted at earlier, maybe this is where it was meant to stay. If Doug right now uploaded a 20-minute disjointed short film called Mothman, full of post-production shaky cam and inconsistent cinematography, would the world be any different? The only change I can spot is that I wouldn't have got to make this video, so I'm thinking, hey guys, maybe it wasn't too bad. Because no matter how good it was, the lost films we all conjure up in our heads with the terrifying Mothman surely are more unique and may even inspire some future projects starring the legend that would have never been born without it. I like lost media. I like the allure of what could have been. And other than really weird show pilots or games, sometimes I'm just like, the passage of time is unmoving, my friend. Keep it in your heart and just move on. But come on, no good curator would say that. You all need to spend thousands of hours of your lives searching for some ancient McDonald's commercial that was almost certainly a dream.
It's time for Daddy to make some funny.
Okay, at this point, I think I should just let the cat out of the bag. I was the Mothman. I had never been to West Virginia before. I hadn't even heard of it at the time. I just stopped through to get some apples and a new cape, and I accidentally scared the piss out of these two teenagers. I was for real just like up in this tree asking this cool owl dude for directions, and this couple goes from macking on each other to just like screaming their goddamn heads off looking up at me. First of all, rude, but whatever. But then it was all over the news and the radio, and it kind of went to my head, so then I just started messing with everybody there, you know? Chasing them through the woods, tying their shoes together and pushing them over. I did some crazy shit. This one time, I even tied some lady's hair to the train tracks. I called this guy there to try to save her, but when he saw me, he ran like a bitch, so I felt bad and I just let her go. Wait, did I? Whatever. Anyways, I gave no permissions or royalties away for them to make this little movie of theirs. But I didn't really get permission to use their footage either, so I suppose we'll call this one a draw. Subscribe, and comment what other lost media you'd want to see me cover, if any. Don't worry though, you won't have to ask me for more movie videos, cryptid videos, or even more on me, the Mothmane. And yeah, it has an E at the end. I've been trying not to go nuts about that all day, but damn guys, spell my name right, it's been like a century. Ow. What happened? I'm blind.